Since April of 2025, we have been trying to adopt new behaviors which are based more on passion and emotion instead of logic, responsibility, or tradition. We've been adopting these new behaviors in hopes that they will finally help us to release some old chapter of life that we did not like, which were based on the old behaviors of logic, responsibility, and tradition, and get into some new, different, and better experience of life that is more emotionally fulfilling. It has been a little difficult to do, but recently we have done that, and we have begun to act in these different ways on a more regular and habitual basis. Now, at the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, of which this video is for, we need to go in even more on these different behaviors and take a very big leap of faith, perhaps unexpectedly on a whim, to do something that is in our hearts, especially if it does not make logical sense. That big leap of faith will then help us to finally release that old chapter of life and move into a different one more fully. Hi, I'm your astrologer, Brittany of Ethereal Astrology. Today you're watching your astrology horoscope for the collective for the full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces, which occurs on Sunday, September 7th, 2025 at 2:08 p.m. Eastern Time or 11:08 p.m. Pacific Time, depending, of course, which part of the world that it is that you're in. Now, let's go ahead and let's hop right into it. In order to get started, what I always like to do first in these horoscopes is to place on the chart what it is that I'm referring to in this video so that you can see it and follow along with me. So let me do that now. This video is for that full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces. As a result, I have adjusted the chart accordingly. I know that because I've got the moon here in Pisces, making an exact opposition over here to the sun in Virgo. And when the moon opposes the sun, that is considered a full moon. I also know that this is an eclipse because both the sun and the moon are very close to the nodal axis. The moon here is near the north node in Pisces, and the sun here is near the south node in Virgo. And the nodal axis is where eclipses occur, that point in space where eclipses occur if both the sun and moon are there, which they now are. I also want to note as well that I believe this is a total lunar eclipse, and that's because the sun and the moon are very close, within degrees. What is it? 3 degrees to that nodal axis. Okay, so that's what it is that we're looking at. Now, what does this mean? Next, what I like to do is to give you some big general themes that we might all be feeling and experiencing at this time. And to do that, I like to talk about what a full moon is. A full moon is halfway through the lunar month, which started 2 weeks ago at that last new moon. Okay, because of that, full moons are a lot about stepping into things that we've been working towards for quite some time, or in other words, bringing them to full moon fulfillment or completion, or doing them more fully so that we can eventually kind of end them, coming to the last half of the lunar cycle and move on at something else at the next new moon. Not only is it about that, but I also need to note as well that because full moons are when the moon is the brightest in the night sky, it can also as well bring something to light a lot of times at full moons that we did not see before, or illuminate something to make it more conscious from the subconscious. Not only that, but I also want to note as well that a full moon is a function of an opposition between the sun and the moon. As a result, full moons can also tend to push decisions, force us to make decisions as well, because it's hard to do 2 opposite things at once. We usually need to choose or make some sort of compromise of some sort as well that usually comes up around this time. Okay, not only that, but I want to note as well that this, again, is an eclipse. Eclipses tend to superpower these things that we were just discussing about the full moon to make it either bigger or to make it more significant here. So a bigger thing that we're trying to complete or step into fullness or do something more fully in a very big way, or make it very significant in our lives, more so than your usual run-of-the-mill lunation, that can have impact for many weeks and maybe even many months and years as well. So it can make this very big and very significant. Okay, and push some important events to the surface. I need to note that we maybe haven't been dealing with, or haven't been dealing with fully now to be dealt with. Okay, what is it that we are more fully stepping into in a very big, significant way, or completing, making decisions on, seeing more clearly? Well, that's going to be Pisces, because that is the sign that this full moon lunar eclipse is in here. Okay, what is Pisces all about? Well, Pisces is a water sign. Water signs tend to be more about our emotions and our inner world instead of our external world, like maybe the earth signs might indicate, and a lot more about our emotions. So there's something at this full moon lunar eclipse when it comes to our emotions and what we're feeling and what's going on inside us that we are trying to get more clarity on, right? Bring to light and work with better, or understand more fully, or step into in a more full way what our emotions might be telling us. Not only that, but I need to note as well, with Pisces being a water sign, yes, it is connected to our emotions, but many times it's also connected as well to our intuition or to a higher power, spirit, universe, the divine, God, something of that sort. And it also correlates to that because it's ruled by Neptune, which is an outer planet. It's the last sign of the zodiac. So it can bring that as well. So not only at this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces are we maybe trying to get clarity on our emotions and step more into our emotions and what we're feeling and what they're telling us that they need, but we're also as well trying to connect more with our intuition or with the divine and with a higher power and what that might be telling us as well about our lives that we might need as well. Okay. In addition to that, Pisces as well is a lot about hope and faith. It's also too about surrendering and trust. And usually that is connected to our emotions and to our intuition and a higher power, because a lot of times our emotion and our intuition and a higher power don't use logic, don't use reason, or speak to us in very different ways than maybe we might be used to. That does require us to have just faith that following our emotions is going to work, faith that we're hearing intuition and spirit properly, and trust that spirit, the universe, and the divine is going to take care of us if we are honoring that part of ourselves as well. So not only is this full moon lunar eclipse about us getting more clarity on our emotions and what they are, and maybe even on what spirit and the divine is trying to tell us, and to step more fully into what the messages we're getting from there, but also to have trust, hope, and faith that as long as we're honoring our emotions and spirit and the divine, that we're going to be taken care of and that we're going to be okay. And not only that, but other things that I want to note as well is that Pisces also has a lot to do with healing because of that, because of the tendency to honor our emotions and to connect with spirit and the divine and to trust spirit and the divine as well. So that can be another theme that can be come up here. And I need to note Pisces, because it is a water sign, is more so emotional healing, not so much healing and fixing things in a physical sense as well. So not only at this full moon lunar eclipse are we trying to get significant clarity about what our emotions are telling us in need and what spirit, the divine, God is telling us about our lives, and to honor more of that and step more into that, but to also have trust and faith that it's going to work to help us in our situation, whatever it is that is going on, and to bring great healing emotionally within ourselves. Not only that, but other things that I want to note too is that Pisces being the last sign of the zodiac, right before the zodiac starts again in Aries, it also too is about the past. And I think more specifically, releasing the past, letting the past go, washing our hands of it, so to speak, with the water sign, so that we can start again too. And I think releasing the past, sure, maybe there is a physical component because the sun is a part of this alignment in Virgo and Earth sign, but especially releasing the past emotionally within ourselves, where we're no longer romanticizing it or holding on to it in the way that we once were as well. And that also can be connected to healing. A lot of times it's easier to heal after we've released the past, or once we've released the past, it's easier to heal. So they're kind of connected as well. And sometimes releasing the past takes a leap of faith, and trusting of spirit. So they're all kind of connected here as well. Okay, that could come up too and be a significant part of what's going on at this eclipse, trying to honor our emotions and spirit and what they're telling us and have faith that it's going to work, which then I think might help us to heal and to release some things from the past that maybe have been holding us back. In addition to that, another thing that I'll mention too about Pisces is that Pisces also tends to be as well a sign about rest and sleep. Okay. And so that can also be a big theme as well that can come up, right? It's not a sign of hard work and doing a lot, especially because it correlates to trust and faith, right? You just kind of surrender. So it's a lot about taking it easy, resting more, or maybe if some of you have had issues sleeping lately, it can also be about trying to resolve in a significant way some of those things as well so that you can feel more rested. Really, the idea is to rest more too. So I think those to me are the big themes that are coming up. Is there any, I'll tell you one more, maybe before I move on. Pisces is also about compassion. It's about compassion, sure, for other people, but I think sometimes for ourselves, sometimes we're the ones that need it the most too. So I think we're also trying to cultivate more of that. In addition to that, another thought, Pisces being a water sign and symbolized by two fish moving in opposite directions, is also kind of about going with the flow of water, the flow of things too. So I think that's which kind of has to do with surrendering, rest and ease. So I think those are other things as well that we're trying to do at this time, is to more significantly understand our emotions, understand what spirit is trying to tell us, honor those things, step into that, and have hope and faith that it'll work so that we can release the past, heal, rest, be a little bit more at ease, and just feel kinder and more at peace within ourselves. And not only that, but another thing I want to note too, I should have noticed this, I said this a minute ago, but the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces is on the north node where the moon is. I tend to like that a lot better than the south node. I tend to like that a lot better than the south node because the north node to me is really about our purpose in life, what we're meant to learn or to grow or to evolve towards at this time in our lives. And because this full moon is on the north node, I consider this very positive, and I consider it a sign that we need to do the Pisces more. We need to do, which is really what's happening at this full moon to a greater extent, because that's where a lot of our growth is happening that I do like there. So I think that's all I'm going to mention for now. The main themes of this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces is that we're trying to get more clarity on what our emotions, spirit, God, universe, the divine is trying to tell us so that we can honor that more, make decisions to step into that or act on that. And we're trying to have hope and faith that it's all going to work out so that we can heal emotionally, feel more compassionate towards ourselves, rest, be at ease, and release some things from the past that may have been keeping us stuck, which is going to be very significant towards our growth, positive growth at this time. Okay, now before I get more into the details and into the specifics about this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces and how it's going to play out, I do like to go backwards in time for a little bit before I move forwards. I like to go backwards in time to give you more of the context about how we got here to this lunation, because there is a full moon in Pisces every year. It's not always an eclipse, but there is a full moon in Pisces every year. There are also eclipses every year as well. To me, it's the alignments that happen around these things or before the lunations that really sometimes can make the most difference, to make each lunation the most different from the next, and to help me give you more clarity, more detail, more specificity here about what exactly is going on. So I'm going to go back to the past to talk about some other alignments to give you the context. If you're not into that or you don't have a lot of time or whatever, not a big deal. I've got the timestamps on this video, and in the description so that you can easily choose your own adventure and jump ahead to whatever part in the video might be the most useful for you. But for those of you who want to hear it, I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go back very briefly to an alignment that happened at the very beginning of 2020, January to April of 2020. At that time, we had a very rare and challenging alignment that occurred. That was Saturn, Pluto, and the South Node all coming conjunct, and Jupiter all coming conjunct right here towards the middle to end degrees of Capricorn. Okay, this was a rare alignment because Saturn and Pluto only come conjunct about every 35 years. and not always in the same sign, and not always with Jupiter in the South Node there, which makes it even more rare than that. Not only was that a rare alignment, but it was also a challenging one. It's also a challenging one because Saturn and Pluto are involved, which are technically considered malefic planets, especially being on their way to the outer planets. The South Node can also be a little bit hard as well, indicating things that we're stuck in that are no longer good for us. And also, too, Jupiter was there in Capricorn, a sign it didn't really like to be in, too, which can also have made it a little bit more difficult. So this was a rare challenge. What is the challenge? Well, the South Node can indicate things from the past that have been keeping us stuck, that if we continue to do, can hold us back, right? That we need to let go of. That can be hard. It's hard to let go of things that you've been doing for a while there. In addition to that, Saturn can also indicate kind of a stuckness as well. And Pluto involved can indicate a change, a very significant change that needed to be made. And with Jupiter there, a big one. Jupiter's a very big planet, a very big significant change that needed to happen because we were feeling stuck in order to release some things from the past that were no longer meant for us anymore. And I think the reason why we were feeling stuck and needed to make a big change to really release or end things from the past that were no longer working for us is because those things that were in our life, we either never liked them at all. They just never really were meant for us. These things that we wanted to release and we had just grown tired and extra tired of. Or these things in our life that we did not like, that we felt stuck by, that needed to end, we liked at one time within that 35-year span, but just since then we'd outgrown them. It's normal to grow and change as humans. So we just outgrew them and they no longer resonated with us anymore and we wanted different things. And it was about us starting that process of change, which is really endings, which was difficult. It's hard to end these things there. So that's the first thing that I want to mention, our starting point. January to April of 2020, we realized, hey, there's a lot of things in my life that either I never liked or no longer resonate with anymore that's making me feel stuck that I need to first end significantly, make big, difficult endings that's hard first in order for me to eventually move forward and create different and better circumstances for myself. And that then leads me now to the next alignment I want to mention. I'm going to fast forward many years to this year, April of 2025, to a new moon solar eclipse that we had earlier this year in the sign of Aries, somewhere around here. I'm going to fast forward to that, partially for the sake of time, to just make this shorter and more digestible, this section, but also too, because there was a solar eclipse that happened then earlier this year in that sign of Aries. And because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, which starts the astrological new year, which brings changes in themes, a change and, or a new theme that we're going to be dealing with for a whole year. That's extra important. So that's how I want to go to that because we're still on that year and dealing with that as well. So what was that? Well, it was a new moon solar eclipse in Aries, April 2025. New moons are all about new beginnings, new energy, fresh start. Solar eclipses superpower that to make that extra big and significant. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, which is a lot about new beginnings and fresh starts, like new beginnings and fresh starts after, say, ending a lot of things over the past 5 years prior to this. Not only is Aries about that, but it also is a Mars ruled sign about action, acting, and I think acting in new and different ways, with it being the first sign of the zodiac and a new moon, acting in new and different ways as well, right? Because in order to get into a new experience of life, we need to behave very differently as well so that we don't recreate the same things we're trying to escape all over again. So we also needed a very different way of action here too that we were getting earlier this year. What type of action was that? Well, this is Aries that we're talking about. Aries is a fire sign. Fire signs are not super logical. They're not super rational. They're not super practical. That's more of an earth sign. Fire signs are passionate, which is an emotion. Passion is an emotion. It's a feeling based more on emotions. Not only that, but Aries to me is more instinctual, more based on our instincts. I also consider it to be a sign that when it does things, likes to do things more simple and easier. It's not going to think long thoughts about how to work things out, right? That's an air sign. It's going to do things easy, simple, based on a feeling, passion, emotion, and instinct. That's what we were trying to do here, and to develop more of that. And I think that that was needed, maybe to connect it back to 2020, because that Saturn-Pluto alignment we had in 2020 was in Capricorn, which is serious behavior, structured behavior, practical behavior, well thought out sometimes behavior. And that was part of the problem that got us into a whole bunch of things that we didn't like, or that was part of the thing that we had outgrown. So we need new behaviors, not structured, not responsible, not logical. We need new behaviors, easy, simple, passionate, exciting, based on emotion, in order to get us into a new, different experience of life. Okay, that was necessary. Not only that, but I also want to note too that Aries is also about our identity as well, and how we see ourselves. So also a new identity was needed. A new identity was needed in order to facilitate a lot of that as well, that encompasses these new behaviors in order for us to move forward. So I think that was what we tried to do then in April of 2025. To, now that we ended a lot of stuff, try to move forward into a new experience, to create new and better experiences for ourselves now in a very different way, more passionate, more instinctual, simpler, easier, and to see ourselves in a different way so that we don't fall back into these old things. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment that I'm going to mention. And now I'm going to go into the moons, mostly the new moons that have happened this year since that new moon solar eclipse in Aries. And that's going to lead me to that next new moon a month later that happened, of course, in the next sign over of Taurus, somewhere around there, May. I think it was May, a month later of 2025. What was that? New moons are about new beginnings. New energies, fresh starts. Taurus is the second sign of the zodiac. It's fixed. It's a lot about sustaining things that were already started in, say, the first sign of the zodiac, Aries, and about staying fixed in those. So this was about us trying to get a little bit of a boost to stay fixed in these different behaviors, more passionate, more based on our instinct, more excitable, so that we can get into this different and better experience of life. Not only that, but Taurus is about becoming more confident in these things, like these new behaviors, valuing them more. Not only that, but I also need to note too that Taurus, being fixed Earth, is a little bit of a slower sign as well, because Earth can sometimes be that way. So this might have also been us having to slow down a little bit in order to adopt these new behaviors, because sometimes it's hard to adopt new behaviors. If you're going fast, you might overlook it. We might have had to slow down a little bit to adopt these new behaviors, or if we didn't have to slow down to adopt these new behaviors, then that time may have just felt slow. Because when we're doing things that are simpler and easier, it sometimes feels like we're doing less, because we're not making things more complicated than they need to be. So there could have been a little bit of a slower feeling there as well that happened. That then leads me now to the next alignment I want to mention. About a month later, somewhere the next sign over, June of this year, 2025, new moon in Gemini. New moons are about new beginnings, new energy, and fresh starts. Gemini is a lot about adapting to things, being a mutable sign, and adjusting to them. Not only that, but Gemini has a lot to do with our neighborhoods, our communities, which are things we know like the back of our hands, which is about making things familiar, things that are familiar to us. So it's also too about becoming more familiar with these new behaviors that started at the beginning of the astrological new year. Getting more familiar with these new behaviors as well and adapting to them. Not only that, but Gemini is a Mercury ruled sign about our mind. So it's also too about adjusting more of our mindset to these new behaviors, to get more clear on them and what they are and how they can impact our situation. And I also see Gemini as more of a playful sign as well, since it's got that flexibility too, and is symbolized by two young twin boys. So there's also a little bit more of a playful and flexibility with these new behaviors as well. So I think that's what happened then. We got new behaviors at the beginning of the year, passionate, easy, simple, fun, to move us into a different and better experience. We then sustained them to stay fixed in them, which might have felt a little slow. And then after that, we started to adapt, to be more flexible and have more fun with these different behaviors. And that then leads me now to the next new moon a month later, and that following sign somewhere here in Cancer in July of this year, 2025. Okay. New moons, again, are about new beginnings, new energy, and fresh starts. Cancer is a lot about our foundations in life, since it correlates to home and family and being really grounded and firm in something. there. It also too is about our emotions as well. That new moon was also very good. It was conjunct Jupiter in its sign of exaltation in Cancer. So a very big emotional expansion or emotional understanding as well. And I think that was an opportunity for us to become more fully grounded in these new behaviors and more integrated into our emotions, into our sense of self, into who we are, and to believe and understand them more fully. That then leads me now to the next alignment I'm going to mention. About 2 weeks after that, now I'm going to go to a full moon we had in Capricorn, I think also somewhere around July of 2025, which was near that same spot that Saturn, Pluto, the South Node, Jupiter came conjunct in 2020. What was that about? Full moons are all about stepping into things we've been working towards for quite some time. Capricorn is a lot about, it's an earth sign and it's the top of the chart. It's a lot about seeing things more publicly or seeing things more out in the world. It's also too about things taking on more form, being an earth sign with more structure, and more boundaries as well. So I think what happened at that full moon in Capricorn in July of 2025 is that we started to see these new behaviors that were based on our passion, simpler and easier, not only take more root within ourselves and our mindset and our emotions and who we are, but to also start to manifest things in our external environment that were different, maybe even a different life direction. Capricorn has to do a different life direction that was better, which is the whole point of adopting these new behaviors. That was better, that was taking on more form and more publicly seen. That then leads me now to the next alignment I want to mention, which happened about 2 weeks after that, somewhere around August of 2025. Sorry for my chicken scratch. A new moon in the next sign over of Leo, while I need to note Mercury was retrograde in that sign as well. What was that about? New moons are about new beginnings. Leo is a lot about courage, being symbolized by the lion to kind of continue with things. It's also a fixed sign, right? Fixed signs too have to do with staying fixed in something, continuing with something to keep it going. Leo as well has to do with our heart and our happiness and our passion, being a fire sign like Aries too. And I think, again, can be very active, being fire as well, a doer, that I think we were trying to cultivate more of, to continue onwards, right? To continue onwards with these more passionate behaviors, stay more fixed and get more courage to follow through with them. And to see our identity. And Leo has to do with our identity in a different way. But keep in mind that Mercury was retrograde at the time of that new moon in Leo, in the same sign of Leo. And so that was a little bit hard. That was a little bit hard for us to get the courage to continue, even though something very good was starting to manifest. And we might have started to slow down on our manifestations, on these new actions, or doubt them or hold back, which could have made us feel a little bit stuck, a little bit of a lull in a year where we were actually doing quite well with that, which was a challenge. That then leads me now to the next alignment I want to mention, which I think was also somewhere around August of this year, 2025. And it was a full moon in the opposite sign of Aquarius that happened shortly after that. Full moons are all about stepping into things that we've been working towards for quite some time. It's in Aquarius. Aquarius is a lot about breaking free from things that have been keeping us stuck, liberating ourselves from those, and being more open to different ideas in a future. And I think what we were liberating ourselves from was that lack of courage that we just had, and was that slowness and that stuckness and that lull and the great progress we were making. We were liberating ourselves from that so that we could continue onwards with these different actions that were simpler, easier, more passionate, and move forward on with that in a more authentic way. That then leads me now to the next alignment I'm going to mention, which was the new moon that happened 2 weeks ago before this video here in the sign of Virgo. Okay, new moons are about new beginnings, new energy, fresh starts. Virgo is a lot about our habits and our daily routines. It's also too about practical matters as well. And I think what the new moon in Virgo was about us trying to continue again with the behaviors we got at the beginning of the year, the actions that are passionate, excitable, simpler, and easier. It was trying to continue onwards with those after liberating ourselves from some fear so that we could do these behaviors on a more regular and habitual basis, day in and day out, and follow through on them more regularly and integrate them more a part of our life and more a part of our physical world, and make make more changes in the physical, connecting back to what happened at that full moon in Capricorn to bring more things together. That then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which is going to be the alignment that we have already discussed, of which this video is for, that full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces right here on September 7th of 2025. Okay, what is that about? Full moons are all about stepping into things we've been working towards for a while. It's an eclipse. It's going to make that very significant. Okay, it's a lot about trust and faith. It's a lot about honoring our emotions. We discussed that, and about releasing the past, healing, and feeling more at ease. And so now at this full moon lunar eclipse, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to trust that these actions, simpler, easier, more passionate, are going to work, even if it doesn't seem like it yet, or even if we're unsure if it will yet. And to more fully honor our emotions. Passion is an emotion, right? And the way that we need, so that we can ultimately release the past, release things that have been keeping us stuck since 2020, move into a different and better experience of life, and heal from that time, and rest to take it a little more easy after all that it is that we've been through. Okay, and that's it. Because that's it, I'm just going to repeat that very briefly before we move on. What I think has been going on here over the course of the past few years is that we have been trying to end a lot of old things that have been keeping us stuck, that either we never liked or simply had outgrown, so that we can move into a different and better experience of life that we've been trying to get to for a while. And at the beginning of this year, in April of 2025, we began to adopt different behaviors in order to get us into this different experience. Because if we want different things, we have to act in different ways. And we adopted different behaviors that are based more on our passion, our emotion, our impulses, and that are simpler and easier, because that wasn't the way we were behaving before. And it's taken us some time for a lot of this year to really understand these behaviors, stay fixed in them, integrate them, get more solid in them, and to overcome any fear and anxiety around doing things in this different way. But we've done it. And because we've done it and overcome those issues, we've begun to adopt these behaviors on a more regular, habitual basis. And now at this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, we're just trying to have trust and faith that as long as we keep honoring these behaviors, even if they don't make logical sense, that they're going to work, that they're going to work to get us to where we need to go here, and to help us release some things that have been keeping us stuck since 2020 and move into a different and better experience. Okay, and that's it. Because that's it, I'm now going to erase the chart, and I'm going to talk more now about the specific details and alignments that are occurring with this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. Before I dive into the details, though, I do just like to place on the chart one last time what we're referring to, so that we can see it. Okay, here's the sun in Virgo making the opposition to the moon in Pisces. Okay, what do I want to take a look at first? Hey, I think I'm gonna go here first to Mercury. Because at this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, we've got Mercury in Virgo making a conjunction with the sun, coming into a conjunction with the sun, and opposite the moon, of course, and near the south node. So I want to take a look at this. Okay, there are some things that I actually really like about this. Mostly because Mercury is in Virgo, its home sign and its sign of exaltation, where it really loves to be and gets along very, very well. Not only do I like it because of that, but I also like it too because it's making a conjunction with the sun, and the sun and Mercury are a good pair. They're very good friends. They get along very well. So this to me is a good thing that is happening. What is the good thing here? Well, both Mercury and the sun are in Virgo, which is where we had the new moon 2 weeks ago. Virgo is a lot about habits. It's about routines. It's about doing something in a more habitual and routine basis, day in, day out, like clockwork, something that's just done more regularly. And with Mercury here in its home sign and sign of exaltation, this is a good sign. We are doing it. We are developing a routine. We are developing a habit, something that we're doing day in and day out, and where it's happening more easily, right? Mercury likes to be here. Happening more easily, happening more regularly, happening more naturally, especially with the sun there too, which is very good. The sun has to do with the core of our being. So we're aligning. Not only are we doing a habit and routine more easily and more naturally, but we're aligning with that habit and routine, and feeling just more aligned or connected with it as well, like it's something that's important to us. Not only that, but when planets make a conjunction with one another, which is what's happening here, they tend to refresh each other. To start a new cycle, so to speak. So this isn't just any type of routine or habit that we're doing more easily, that we're aligning with. It's a new one. It's a new habit. It's a new routine that we're starting, that we're doing in a better way. And again, the new routine and the new habit that we're starting, I think, is, again, it goes back to Aries, because that's where we had the new moon solar eclipse in Aries at the beginning of the year. And that's where Saturn now is. And Aries is a lot about action, but it's about acting in ways that are fiery, passionate, impulsive, exciting, simpler, easier, fun, not as complicated. It's where we're doing those types of behaviors on a more regular, habitual basis, day in and day out. It's that new routine that we're forming. It's that we're doing more easily. It's that we're aligning with, that I think is meant to be better for us. Not only that, the sun is very bright. It can bring clarity. It can bring illumination. So we're starting to understand more and more and more, and see more and more and more just how important doing things in this different way is, especially in our physical reality, because Virgo is an earth sign. Not only that, but another thought here too is that Virgo, being an earth sign, can also start to bring shifts in our physical reality. So it can bring more things shifting in the physical as a result of these new behaviors, this new routine, right? The more that we act passionately, following our impulses every day, day in and day out, we're going to start to see our physical environment shift, I think, for really for the better, more easily and more naturally. So I think that's what I want to say there. So far, a lot of things I like about this eclipse. Okay. We are forming a new routine, a new habit where we act passionately, instinctually, impulsively, simpler and easier every day, day in and day out, in a more natural way that we're understanding, we're aligning, we're getting more clarity on, and we're seeing is changing our physical environment in positive ways. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment I want to mention, which is going to be here where Venus is, Venus in Leo. And now I'm going to go to Venus in Leo because it is making a quincunx to this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. Now, I don't always talk about quincunxes in my horoscopes, but I am now, and I am this one because this full moon lunar eclipse is making a yod as well, which is kind of a unique alignment. And it's kind of funny because the new moon in Virgo we just had was making a yod, and this one is making a yod too, and that doesn't always occur. But this is making a yod. A yod is a planet, in this case, the moon. It's a luminary that's making two quincunxes to planets that are sextiling each other. In this case, it's Venus in Leo. And then we're going to talk in a minute about the second quincunx over here to Mars in Libra. But I'm going to start here with the Venus in Leo. I also want to like Venus in Leo in and of itself. I like Venus in Leo in and of itself because it's coming over the spot that Mercury went retrograde. After Mercury is now direct and in a very good spot. And so I think that this is also helping us to work through some of the Mercury retrograde challenges that we had a month or so ago. And those challenges, you know, Leo's a lot about courage, being about the lion. It's a lot about continuing and staying fixed with it being a fixed sign in behaviors that are more passionate, that are based more in our identity, right? And this is helping us, especially with Venus being a lot about ease, beauty, receiving, being more receptive. This is really helping us to be more open to passionate behaviors, having more courage to follow through on our heart and passion and impulsiveness and fun and excitedness, and to allow that to be more a part of our life, to just receive that, and also for that to just happen more naturally as well. So this to me is a very good thing taken together with the previous alignment of Mercury opposite the moon conjunct the sun, is that we are forming a new and different routine and habit where we're following our passion in our impulses and our instincts day in and day out on a regular basis, that is starting to change our physical reality for the better. And it's feeling more natural and it's feeling more easy. And we're open to receive whatever changes are going on in our physical environment. And we're feeling happier and we're having more courage to continue and to follow through and to stay strong in this different approach and to work with it more, which I think is very good. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment I want to mention, which is going to be Mars in Libra. Okay, which is making a quincunx over to the moon in Pisces and a sextile to Venus in the Leo that I was just talking about. And this I want to consider also to be positive, although I am going to mention a little bit of a challenge. I want to consider this to also be more of positive because it's connecting so well with Venus in Leo by a sextile. I always interpret a sextile in a positive way, which I think can be a good thing. But I think there's also going to be a little bit of a challenge to it because Mars is in Libra, a sign it does not like to be in. And of course, it's making that quincunx over to the moon in Pisces as well. So I'm going to interpret this in both ways, but I'm going to start with the positive first. What is this? Mars is about action. It's about doing things. And Libra is musical. It is a little bit more harmonious. Sometimes I might consider going a little more with the rhythm of things. Not only that, it tends to be a little more calm and a little more balanced. Okay, it's not right. It's going to do things, Libra, especially with Mars there, but in a more calm and balanced way. And I think that is pertaining back to what we've been talking about, these actions that are more passionate, that are more fiery, that are more excitable, that are simpler and easier. It's about us continuing to act in those behaviors, but in a way that is more harmonious, that is more easy, that is more natural, with less pushing and forcing, right? Do you see? Because Libra doesn't want to push and force, with less pushing and less forcing as well, and to kind of ease into those and feel more at peace. Libra can be a sign of peace, more peaceful about a lot of those things as well. And I think that is a good thing, right? We're feeling more at peace about some new behaviors that it is, and we're easing into them. We're easing into them. Feeling better about those. Okay. But even though that is a good thing, I'm going to note again, Mars does not like to be in the sign of Libra. Okay. Planets, why is that? Planets don't like to be in the signs opposite the ones they're at home in, right? Mars is at home in Aries. They're correlated. Libra's opposite Aries. It doesn't really care for it too much. Why does Mars not like the sign of Libra? Well, because Libra is a little bit of a slower sign that avoids confrontation, right? Because it likes peace and because it likes harmony. Libra, sometimes it can slow down progress with the Mars or stop us from doing things that we might need to step out a little further on or do a little bit more. That's happening. We might be holding back on action is what I'm trying to say here as well, for the sake of like finding our balance and trying to be harmonious. That can be a little bit of a challenge. And it can be a little bit of a challenge because it may make us feel like progress is still a little slow. If not feel like progress is still a little slow, feel like we're still holding back a little stuck, not fully stuck, right? Do you see we are starting to move, but still a little bit stuck, not where we want to be, and maybe even a little bit frustrated, like there's more we want to happen to change our lives that hasn't fully happened yet. So that's the next thing I'm going to say before I add a few other pieces on is that, at this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, we are in fact adopting a new habit and a new routine where we honor more of our passions, our impulses, our instincts, our excitement, and make things simpler and easier, regular on a daily basis, day in and day out. And we're starting to see it change our physical and environment little by little. And we're becoming more open to the routine and to the changes in our environment. And we're feeling a little better about it, and we're feeling stronger and more courageous to follow through, and we're doing these different approaches and we're easing into it, and we're feeling more aligned and more balanced and more peaceful and harmonious with these different behaviors and with the things that it's starting to change in our lives. But even though we are doing these different behaviors on a more regular and habitual and routine basis, and they're working, and we're excited, and they're starting to change things in our lives, and we're aligning with it, we're still holding back a little. We're still holding back a little on these behaviors and routines and on the passion that we need to be doing, instead of going all the way in, instead of going in fully in the way that we need, which can make progress either still feel a little slow or make us feel a little frustrated, like there's more out there that's just out of reach that we can't tap into, frustrated, like there's still something that's not quite coming together all the way. Okay, that then leads me now. The next thing I want to mention, which of course is going to be back to that full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, because that's where the quincunx is connecting to, the two quincunxes between Mars and Venus and the center of the yod. Okay. I want to go back to that. And I want to go back to that, sure, because it is the eclipse. It is what this video is for, but also being the center of the yod, which is this like triangle that it's making here. It has extra importance. And the yod, I think, means the finger of God. I think it's like a Hebrew word. I'm not quite sure. I think it's like a Hebrew word. It means the finger of God. And the ancient astrologers considered whatever planet, in this case, a luminary, the moon, is at the point of the yod, holds extra importance, means that it's extra needed at this time in order to move forward that we may not be doing naturally because the other two planets, in this case, Mars and Venus, are ganging up on it. So the Pisces is something that we need a lot with the full moon there, the eclipse there, the yod there, the everything. Okay. What is it that I think we really need more of? And I need to note this may not be supernatural, may not be supernatural or comfortable at first, especially not with the North Node there. But what is this about? Pisces is a water sign, right? It has to do with fish. To me, it has to do with oceans, if we want to get literal here. So it has to do with that. And what is it? It's correlated to Neptune. Isn't Neptune like the god of the ocean or the god of the sea? So it has to do with that. And the point I'm trying to make is that to me is a lot about going with the flow. It's about going with the flow, or like letting the tidal wave, like letting a tidal wave, because the ocean can be very strong, take over, so to speak. Not only is Pisces a lot about that, again, it's a lot about hope and faith. And sometimes we think of hope and faith as like a passive thing of like, oh, I'll just have hope and faith that it's going to work out. But I think now, especially with this being a full moons are very active times of the lunar month. And oppositions mean decisions, which is what a full moon is, a decision to act, to take a leap of faith, to take a big leap of faith here that's needed in our situation, and to allow that to kind of take over like the tidal wave and to go more with the flow. It's also about surrendering to that. And what's needed there. It's also too about our emotion and intuition, Pisces, and trusting that more than, say, the logical mind, more than what's practical, more than what's reasonable. It's about trusting in our emotions or intuition, spirit, trusting in the unseen as well. Not only that, but Pisces too is also, again, more about ease. It's not about over planning. It's not about over controlling, especially if it's about going with the flow, and it's about rest. So not only is it about taking a big leap of faith and surrendering to it and letting the tidal wave do its thing, it's also and trusting it'll work out. It's also about being at ease once that happens and not trying to overwork or overdo or all of that, and to not let your logical mind get in the way, and to trust your emotions and your intuition. In addition to that, Pisces too is about the past, remember, and releasing the past as well. So it also too is not only about us, I think, taking a big leap of faith, making a decision to take a big leap of faith, and to trust that it's going to work, and to go with the flow and surrender to that instead of trying to over control it and logically justify it. But once that occurs, once you take that leap of faith, for the past to finally release itself, and especially a lot of challenging things from the past to release itself. And I think a lot of things from 2020 that we've been trying to get rid of, for that to finally close out, that we've been talking about, that old chapter, and move on as well. So it's that there that is needed, that may not feel entirely natural or comfortable, but that I think there's a huge desire pushing us towards. Okay. So do you see here, at this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, we are adopting new habits and routines where we're following our passion, our impulses, our emotions, our excitement, day in and day out on a regular basis, and making life simple and easy, which is changing our physical environment. And we're becoming more open to that, more strong and excited and courageous about it, more at ease with it. It's becoming more natural. We're easing our way into it. But even though we're getting this new habit and routine, and it's working, and we're easing our way into it, and things are adjusting themselves, we're still holding back a little from going all in on these different behaviors that are passionate, which is making us feel stuck or frustrated, that we're still not there, and that things are just out of reach. That's a little bit hard. But even though that's hard, I think there is something within ourselves, within our emotions, within spirit, intuition, trying to talk to us big time at this eclipse, and trying to tell us, come to the edge, go a little bit further with these different behaviors that are passionate, that are simpler, that are easier, and make a decision to take a big leap of faith based on these passionate, excitable emotions that you have, even if it does not make logical sense. Okay. make a decision to do it and to trust and have faith that it will work out and to surrender to whatever craziness and chaos it brings, because that is the thing that's going to help you finally release the past that's been keeping you stuck and no longer be beholden to that anymore after this point. Okay, that then leads me now to the next thing I want to talk about, which is going to be Uranus here. That's because Uranus, I believe in the days before, right around, the days before this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces is going to go retrograde in the sign of Gemini. So I want to talk about that. That's a significant, a big deal, because when a planet stations to go retrograde, I do believe it brings a lot of focus and a lot of attention to that planet and emphasizes it more, because that's when it appears to be moving still in the sky, which I guess in theory makes it easier to see or focus on. So I do believe that it can bring extra focus to that planet. I also believe too that when a planet stations retrograde as well, it can bring extra insight, something to light. It can help us to see something that maybe we did not see in that way before as well, too. And it is, of course, at the very beginning degrees of the sign. So I think that this is very important. I think that I'm going to interpret this both ways, a good, and maybe a little challenging. I'm going to interpret it both ways because I tend to like it when planets change directions either way, because again, I think it helps us to see something we didn't see before, but can also be a little bit of a challenge because it is going retrograde. What is it? Well, to start, Uranus is about the sudden and the unexpected. Okay. This especially can be an idea because it's in Gemini, Mercury ruled sign, a sudden unexpected idea that you might have, but I think it could also be an event because we are at a lunar eclipse. Okay. And full moons. Full moons tend to bring more outward events in our lives, as to where new moons are more inwards, and an eclipse also can push events and make them more significant as well. So I think it can be either or. Not only that, but Uranus again is a little crazy because it has to do with rebellion. It has to do with things that are unique. It has to do with things that are innovative. So this is like a crazy idea, a big crazy idea that you might suddenly and unexpectedly have. Uranus is also about breaking free from things that are keeping you stuck. It's also too about the future and unique things, innovative things. It's also as well about your authentic self and aligning more with that. So I think it's bringing that, especially coupled with the eclipse in Pisces that we were just talking about, a decision to make a leap of faith. Well, here's the unexpected crazy idea, giving you the insight, giving you the opportunity to take the leap of faith, telling you what it is coming out of blue, which appears to be out of the blue. And this might also be not only the crazy idea, but it could also be you actually taking the idea, you actually taking the leap of faith unexpectedly to kind of dive in and leave things and see how things go. Not only that, but again, I do tend to like it, Uranus here being positive, but especially I need to note it is making some good aspects here. It's making a trine to Pluto and a sextile to Neptune, but it can also be a little bit of a challenge because it is starting to go retrograde at the very beginning degrees of the sign. What is that? Well, Uranus, when a challenge brings anxiety, it can bring nervousness. Maybe it can bring some sort of worry, right? Especially if we're taking a leap of faith, because the nature of a leap of faith is that we don't know if it's going to work. We don't know if it logically makes sense or if it's logically going to work. So naturally, you're going to feel worried, anxious, and nervous. Not only that, but Uranus too sometimes can bring a feeling of being wired, right? Uranus correlates to technology. Technology's got a lot of wires. It can also bring this feeling of being wired, can't go to sleep as well, which is interesting, right? Because the full moon is in Pisces. Pisces is also about sleep. So there can be some issues about sleep that we're trying to, that can come up here that we're trying to work through. And to me, it's related a lot to a leap of faith. Sometimes if we're taking a leap of faith and we're worried because we don't know if it's going to work, then we get nervous and we're up at night and we can't sleep and things are crazy. And, we're getting heart palpitations, sometimes that can happen with all of this as well. So it can also bring a real nervous, anxious type of feeling and a real sudden and unexpected vibe, you doing a crazy thing that you didn't think, or someone else doing a crazy thing that obviously you might be connecting with there. So I think that's the next point here. Adopting new habits, passionate, impulsive, emotional on a daily basis, doing day in and day out. It's getting easier to do. We're more open to it. We're aligning with it. We're getting more courage to follow through in it. We're easing our way into it. And we're seeing things change in our environment with these new habits and behaviors. But even though we're doing that and it's all great, we're still holding back a little when it comes to the passion and the excitement and the fun, and we're still not going all in, which is making us feel a little stuck, a little frustrated, and like the life we want is just out of reach, which can be hard. But even though that's going on, there's a very strong inner prompting trying to get us out of that stuckness, out of that holding back, and push us to the edge, and to get us to take a big leap of faith, a decision to make a big leap of faith, to do something crazy, act on some crazy idea, which may come up suddenly and unexpectedly here, to change your life, to liberate yourself from some things from the past that have been keeping you stuck, and create different and better experiences for yourself, and to trust that it will work out, right? Even if it doesn't make logical sense, okay? Which can bring, some sudden and unexpected events, okay? That then leads me now to the next alignment I want to mention, which is going to be Jupiter. Yeah, I'm going to go there. I'm going to go this moon in Pisces. The full moon is also making a trine over here to Jupiter in Cancer, which I have covered up a little bit. But we've got 15 degrees, the moon 19 Cancer. Yes. Okay, it's also making that as well. This to me is a good thing. I like it because trines tend to interpret more positively more often than not. And Jupiter is involved in Cancer. It's sign of exaltation where it really likes to be. So this to me is a very good thing. What is this about? Well, again, it's connecting with that moon in Pisces, which is about that leap of faith, that decision to take a leap of faith, to act on this crazy idea, unexpected crazy idea that doesn't make logical sense, that we just got with the Uranus. Okay, that's what the moon in Pisces wants you to do. And the Jupiter in Cancer, I think, is going to be helpful for that. How is it going to be helpful? Well, Jupiter can really help you hone in on things. You know, to me, Jupiter can be a lot about beliefs, right? It's about our beliefs, and our belief systems can help us to form stronger beliefs in things. Jupiter too is also about faith. So is Pisces. Pisces and Neptune, Jupiter and Sagittarius are also about faith. So this can help us to have more of that faith, and to have more of a belief that we need to do the crazy thing in order to move forward, and help us to hone more into that, right? Jupiter is correlated to Sagittarius. Sagittarius is about the arrow, to point the arrow, right? And we've got the arrow, we literally have an arrow, the yod here, to do this crazy thing that needs to. Jupiter also is optimistic, half glass full. Jupiter also into Sag has got that fiery energy, a little crazy. This is also going to push us to do the crazy thing, and to be optimistic, and to just hope that it will work out. Okay, so there's more of that. Not only that, but Cancer too, which it's in, is a lot about our emotions. And emotional fulfillment. And this to me is also a very good thing, that once we take the leap of faith, which I think we're going to be pushed to do, even if we don't want to do it, or even if we're hesitant, once we take the leap of faith, this is also going to bring an emotional sense of fulfillment too. Like, I did the crazy thing. I don't know if it logically made sense, but emotionally it makes sense. Emotionally it feels good. Emotionally it feels like the right thing. Intuitively it feels like the right thing. It's going to make you feel more at peace with yourself, and with the Cancer, more at home within yourself, which I don't think we've really felt in a while there too, which I think can be very, very good. Not only is it going to bring more of a feeling of like, I'm emotionally at peace with myself, or I'm just feeling more aligned with myself and my emotions and spirit, but it can also bring even more changes in your physical environment as well, with the Pisces being the last sign of the zodiac. And Cancer too, being a cardinal sign, can kind of change things as well. So it can bring even more changes there too. So I think that's what I'm going to say there. And then I've got one or two more things left I'm going to add, but you kind of see where we're headed now with the interpretation. We're getting a new habit and a new routine where we act more based on passion, impulse, and emotion every single day. Not just when we feel like it, not just some days, every day, day in and day out. And we are acting in that different way more regularly and more easily and more naturally, in a way that feels more aligned, more peaceful, more harmonious, more fun, more exciting. And we're having more courage to continue with it, and we are seeing it work. But even though we're doing it and it's great and we're feeling better about it and we're seeing it work, we're still holding back a little bit on this different behaviors and not going all the way in, still making us feel a little slow or stuck or stagnating or frustrated, and like where we want to be is just out of reach. That can be a little hard. But even though there is a little bit of frustration, a stuckness, a slowness, stagnation, that's hard, there's another part of ourselves, spirit, emotions, intuition, and divine, pushing us internally, pushing us from within ourselves to go a bit further with these different behaviors, the passionate, excitable ones, and to make a decision to take a leap of faith, to do something crazy based on a crazy whim, a crazy, sudden, unexpected idea that may come out of nowhere, to take a leap of faith based on that, which may not make logical sense here, in order to align more with your emotions and to liberate yourself from things from the past that have been keeping you stuck. And I think that after we have that little initial frustration, we're going to do it. A lot of you are going to do it, need to do it, need to take that crazy leap of faith and believe in it and just go for it. And I think once we go for it, we're going to feel a bit better. There may be a lot of anxiety around it and a lot of sleepless nights with it, because it could be crazy, a lot of things changing, but we're going to feel a lot better, like we're aligning more with our emotions and like we did the right thing by ourselves and by spirit, again, even if it doesn't logically make sense. That is going to be good. That then leads me now, the next thing I want to mention, which is going to be where Saturn is. Saturn, right before this full moon, also retrograded back into Pisces. So I want to also talk about that as well. I want to consider this more of a helpful thing, even though I know it is at the last degree of a sign, but I want to consider this more of a helpful thing because Pisces and Aries, right? This is where the zodiac ends and begins. The alpha and the omega. I guess you could put it here with the Aries and the Pisces, where something ends and a new thing begins. And I think for a long time we've been straddling two worlds, especially since 2020. If you've been following my horoscope, then we've had one foot in the old life that we haven't liked, been trying to get rid of, and we've had one foot in the new life with the Aries and with the Pisces. And Saturn back in Pisces means that it's going to means that that's about to end. Okay. Because Saturn retrograding back in Pisces means that it's eventually going to go direct and leave Pisces, and it's going to leave Pisces once and for all. I think next February sometime, leave Pisces once and for all until it comes back another 29 or 30 years from now. Okay. So this to me is a very good thing, indicating that this crazy leap of faith that we're taking now, even if it doesn't make logical sense, is going to be the thing that is finally going to do it. Now until February, okay? That's until Saturn leaves Pisces. It is going to be the thing that's finally going to do it. That's finally going to get us to release an old chapter of life that we've been trying to get rid of since 2020 that we did not like, and more completely step into the new, different, and better life come February of next year, where this old stuff is just a distant memory. It's this leap of faith that is going to be the thing that is going to do it. And not only it's going to be the thing that's going to do it, but it's going to start the next few months, right? From now till about February, from now until the next eclipse, right? Eclipses usually have about 6 months of importance anyways. From now until the next eclipse, to release a lot of things, because not only is Pisces and Aries like the alpha and omega between the old and the new, but Pisces is also about letting things go in every way, emotional, internal, but also physical, especially too with the Sun and Mercury near the South Node as well. So not only is Saturn back in Pisces going to help us finally get out of this limbo and finally once and for all release these things from the past and keeping us stuck now and till next February. But that process of the next 6 months is going to require us to let go of a lot of things that in our physical environment, emotionally, that we were attached to say goodbye to those and to wash our hands of those, with it being a water sign, to cleanse ourselves, so that we can eventually move on once and for all, making now to February the time it's going to happen, the time we are finally going to step into the new experience fully, not just a little bit, because we did a little bit at the full moon in Capricorn, not just a little bit, but fully and completely. Okay. So I wanted to note that here as well. Now, could that be, maybe that's another thought, could that be a little, because Saturn is at the last degree of Pisces, so maybe I should mention something there about it being a challenge. Could that be a little scary? Sure. It's scary to, not have the old things to rely on anymore. Pisces is a lot about trust and surrender. Sometimes it's a free fall, and it's weird to not have the firm ground under your feet as much as you used to. So it could feel a little scary of constantly having to release over the course of the next few months more and more things and heal and work through those. But I think that it's a good thing. I think it's going to be positive, and I think we're ready for it. I do. I think now we're ready. Remember, we got the courage, the new moon in Leo, Mercury retrograde. We got the courage. We're willing to do and feel whatever it is that we need, and to process whatever it is we need, and to release whatever it is that we need in order to move on. Okay. And I think that's it. Now, I would give you some advice, but I think a lot of this is going to happen naturally. I think you naturally are going to feel compelled to take a leap of faith, and to just do it, and to just do some crazy, unexpected idea, which is going to change your life entirely for the better over the course of the next 6 months and get you out of an old situation. But I should note, if it does not happen naturally for some of you, maybe I should give you some advice. If it does not happen naturally, that is the advice. You have to do the crazy thing. You have to do a crazy, unexpected thing that does not make logical sense if you want to get out of the past, or out of some stuck situation, or out of something that you don't like, or if you just want to move into a better experience, you have to do the crazy thing that doesn't make sense. That is the key. That is the key that's going to get everything unstuck. And I don't think there's no way around it. You can't skip the crazy thing and get the new experience. You're going to have to go here first. And I think that's important to say, because there's some of you I know that have commented in my previous videos where I've been talking about is starting to move forward a little bit. Y'all been like, I don't feel it. I don't feel it. Well, you're not going to feel any forward movement until you do a crazy risk that does not make logical sense, based on emotion, based on pure passion, based on an impulse, based on an instinct. That is the further key. The second key, we talked about keys of the full moon in Aquarius. This is the next key that's going to open the next door that you need to fully be in this better place. Okay. And that's it. Because that's it. I'm now, and I'm done. I'm done going over all the aspects. I think I'm just going, do I want to talk about, sure, maybe another piece of advice. Yeah, sorry, one other thought, because I didn't really focus too much on the sun and Mercury on the south node, which isn't so great. But another piece of advice I'll give you too is you have to let go of the logical mind, right? The south node is about letting go of things. Mercury is about the logical mind, especially in Virgo, a Mercury ruled sign. You have to let go of logic. And you have to let go of being practical, and you have to let go of being realistic. I think that goes without saying, but sometimes I like to make it clear. If you're going to take a leap of faith and it's going to be crazy and it's not going to make sense and it's going to be based on a whim, you have to stop listening to your logical mind. You have to stop listening to what's reasonable or practical, and you have to go with this other thing that's coming up and go with the flow of that, because that's what's going to change everything here. Okay, and that's it. Because that's it, I'm now just going to repeat all of that one last time before we move on to a different part of the video. So let me do that now. What I think is going on at this full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces is that we are adopting new habits and new routines where we act in a way that's more passionate, excitable, impulsive, emotional, simpler and easier on a more regular and daily and habitual basis, day in and day out, instead of just on occasion or whenever we feel like it. Not only are we doing that on a more regular basis, but we're also feeling more aligned with it, more at peace with it. It's happening more easily and naturally. We're feeling stronger and more excited about that different approach, and more courageous and able to stick with it. And we're starting to see a few things adjust in our physical environment for the better, to kind of overcome things we didn't like as well. That's very positive. But even though that's going on and that's very positive, we're still holding back when it comes to these different habits and routines and behaviors that are more passionate, and not letting ourselves fully go all the way in the way that we need, still making us feel either a little like things are going a little slow or a little stuck, or like the life that we want is still just a little bit out of reach. That can be a little frustrating and a little bit hard, maybe even a little bit nerve-wracking. But even though that's going on, I think there's a stronger pull inside of ourselves, deep within or from spirit, strongly nudging us here to go to the edge, to come to the edge with these different behaviors, passion, simpler, easier, and to go all in and to make a decision, to take a leap of faith based on passion, based on emotion, based on an unexpected, crazy whim, impulse, instinct, here to do something crazy, to change your life, and to trust and have faith that it will work to help you more fully release things that are no longer aligned with you. And I think that it may make us a little anxious, may make us a little nervous, may be a little unexpected, may make us feel a little wired and hard to sleep. But I think we're going to do it. And I think once we do it, it's going to make us feel better. Maybe not, still not make sense logically, but it's going to make us feel better emotionally, like we're aligning more with our soul and with what our emotions need, and like we're aligning more with our intuition and better and more grounded in that regard. And not only that, but it's also going to help us to finally, once and for all, over the course of the next 6 months, end a chapter of life that we did not like, all the experiences of an old life that we did not like, and finally, once and for all, step into a new, different, and better experience of life, even if it's going to require a lot of adjustments over the course of the next few months, and endings and releasing of things, and feel a bit chaotic, like you're in a little bit of a free fall. Okay. That's going on there. Okay. And that's it. And I think that's going to happen naturally, but if it does not happen naturally, then that is the advice. Make a decision to take a crazy leap of faith based on a whim, to do something that does not make logical sense, but that you feel excited about in your heart, because that's going to be the thing that's going to change everything. And stop listening to what's logical or rational or practical, so that you can do it. Okay. And that's it. Because that's it, I'm now just going to say a few other things about this energy in a little bit more of a conversational way, because I think sometimes that can just help you to understand the energy a little bit differently. And it just helps me to be a little more intuitive, or just say other things that I might not have said before. What is it that's coming to me? I think one of the first things I want to note is that this lunar eclipse, this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, is going to be the thing that is going to help us finally release the old chapter of life that we've been trying to escape since 2020 and step into a new, different, and better one that we've been trying to get to for quite some time. This lunar eclipse is going to do it. Okay. The next thing I want to note as well is that it may not necessarily happen all at once. Eclipses, to me, have an impact, sure, especially the few weeks around it, of course, when it happens, but at least up to 6 months, because the 6 months from now is when we're going to get the next series of eclipses, in the opposite way around. So I think it is starting now, where we're finally going to release the old experience of life that we haven't liked and move into a new one, but it may take the next 6 months to do it, till the next eclipse around March. Maybe I'll give you March, because by then Saturn, I think, will be out of Pisces and we'll have the eclipses there. So keep that in mind. Now is the time, over the course of the next 6 months. And it's a window, it's a window of time to do it. Okay. Because sometimes we like things, one moment, one day. It's like, no, you have a window. You have a window of 6 months of where it's finally going to happen, to help you release and change a lot of things. Okay. The next thing that I want to note is that this window of the next 6 months may feel a little bit chaotic, because that is the nature of Pisces. Pisces is not orderly. It's not structured. It's not organized. It's a little chaotic. It's a little more go with the flow, being mutable, being water. So it may be a little chaotic. There may be a lot of comings and goings. There may be a lot of constant changes and adjustments over the course of the next 6 months, which can feel a little overwhelming, but it's going to be for your highest good. I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to bring a lot of exciting, good things into your life. Right between now and about March of next year. Okay, the other thing that I want to note as well is that this is finally the time where it is going to happen. Now, the next 6 months to end the old experience of life that we talked about in 2020 and move into the new one. But how does this connect to the full moon in Capricorn we had, what was it, a month ago? 2 months ago now? Because remember, we had a full moon in Capricorn, I think it was somewhere around July of this year. And I said, we are stepping into a different and better experience of life, and we are releasing the past. What is the difference between then and what is the difference between now? If you've been watching my horoscopes for that during that time period, well, in July of 2025, we did it a little bit. A little tiptoey. We did it a little bit. We a little started to step into a different and better experience of life and release the past. But we did not do it fully. Now to next March is the big kahuna. It's the full thing. It's the big wave with the water sign. It's the final time where we're going to end these things from the past that have been keeping us stuck and move into a different experience, and to do it in a real way, to do it in a permanent way, to do it all the way. This is the moment. So keep that in mind here. Okay, we started to do it in July, but we did not do it fully. Now is the time we're going to do it fully. Okay, a few other thoughts on those 2 dates. Okay, why did we not do it fully in July, and now we are. Well, there's a few thoughts that I have. Part of it is because we didn't have the courage. Remember, in between July and September, where we are now, July, then September, now we had August, Leo season, Mercury retrograde in Leo. We did not have the courage to follow through, and the belief in ourself, right? The high self-worth in order to do it, okay? That made us kind of stagnate, and we had some fear. Well, we've overcome the fear. We've got the courage. We've got the belief in ourselves. So now we have that, which we did not have before. So that's a big difference. Okay. Not only is that a big difference, but getting our foot in the door in July can also help us learn. So we've also learned a little bit in July of like what worked and what didn't, so that we can move forward, right? It helps to learn and see, because once you try something, a lot of times experience helps you understand better what's going on. Not only that, but I think July of 2025 also helped us get a little bit of a foundation for the new, so that even though we are taking a big leap of faith, and even though I do think it does feel risky, it doesn't feel as risky maybe as it might have before, because we've kind of started to move a little bit more in that direction. So I think there's also some kind of correlation there in regards to that. Another thought that I want to have on that as well is that to me means in a lot of ways that they're connected. I mean, everything to me in astrology is connected, but it also means to me too that now this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, September 7th, is connected to that July 2025 full moon in Capricorn, and that whatever was going on there, you now need to do more fully. You now need to go all in on, or do more fully, or go more towards, in order to finish the drill, right? That's the whole thing. Finish the drill, finish the thing. With Pisces being the last sign of the zodiac, make these endings, make these breaks, finish this stuff, stop letting it linger, right? That's what the North Node in Pisces wants you to do, is stop with the past. And, it wants you to do a lot of other things too, but I think the big one now is the past. Okay. What else do I want to note? Okay. Okay, the other thing I want to note, because I did get quite a few comments on some of my last videos from people saying that they still felt stuck and they didn't feel any movement at all, not even in July. Okay, what do I want to say if that's you? Okay, I want to say a few things. I want to say if you weren't feeling that much movement this year, right? And July would have been the last time prior to this when you would have felt the movement. If you haven't felt that much movement into a new, better experience this year, especially not in July, and especially not in August, and especially not before now, what I want to say to you is that that's a fine thing. That doesn't mean that you are wrong. In a lot of ways, that is what's been going on. Earlier this year, we have been making progress, but it's been very small. So to the people who have commented saying, I still feel stuck, I still feel not right. Well, yeah, you're where you need. That's right. Yeah, that's what's going on here. We're getting a little unstuck, but there still was a stuckness. So I don't know how to say it clearly, or if I'm saying it clearly enough now. If you haven't felt like you're fully released from the past over the course of the past few months, it means you're right on track with the energy. Because the energy the past few months hasn't been about breaking free from everything and all. It's been breaking free from a little, but still being stuck, okay? The next 6 months, however, are the time. If you're still feeling stuck after the next 6 months, if you're still feeling stuck in March, okay, that's when there's something not right and you're being left behind. Okay. So I want to keep that in mind as well. If you're feeling stuck prior to this point, there's nothing wrong. I do think you should have been feeling a little hopeful, a little bit of relief, but there's still a lot of stuck energy prior to this point. But if you're feeling stuck after March, especially, then you might be a little left behind here. And I want to note too, I've been looking forward at the astrology for next year, and I go by astrological years. So astrological is April to April. So April of next year, 2026 to April of 2027 looks like a good year to me, with Jupiter in Leo going to be on the South Node, which I like in a lot of ways. So you're going to get a lot of positive horoscopes from me next year. I feel like this year my horoscopes have been way more positive than they were the past few years, if you've been following me since 2020, they've been real hard and challenging to get through. I got to admit, the past few years, they've been more optimistic this year, but next year they're going to be way optimistic. Okay. So if you are not aligning with these new experiences by March of next year, you're going to be way out of step with my videos, and we may need to part ways, which is fine, but I just want to be clear on that. It's natural for you to have still felt a little stuck the past few months, even though I think there was an opening happening. But now we're removing all of that stuck energy from now until March. And if you're still stuck after March, you're going to be left behind, because my horoscopes are going to move on to something happier and more optimistic. A lot about Leo and Jupiter stuff, following your passion, having fun, new passion projects, more passionate things you're doing, being happy, living in the moment, right? We're going to be talking a lot about things like that. Okay. There's going to be other things to work out. Like, I think we're going to need to, band together to help humanity, help each other. I'll probably talk about that too next year, but that's not really that big of a challenge compared to some of these other things that's going on. So keep that in mind. The other thing that I want to note as well is, in order to avoid that, right? In order to avoid getting left behind in March, okay, what needs to happen? It's this horoscope. It's the leap of faith, right? It's the big leap of faith is needed in order to finally get unstuck and release all the things, not just a few of the things, all the things from the past, and move into a different and better experience. Okay. It's the leap of faith. There's no way to get around it. Okay. You can't get into a new and better experience and get unstuck without doing a leap of faith, without doing a crazy thing. With the Pisces here, the crazy thing needs to happen. If you don't do the crazy thing, right, you're going to be stuck. Are you clear on this? Because, and the reason why I'm really trying to hit this home is because I don't want people who've been following me for a long time to get to my horoscopes in March of next year and be like, I don't resonate at all. I'm so lost. I'm still stuck. No. I'm telling you right now, if you are still stuck in March, it's because you're not taking a leap of faith. You're not listening to your intuition. You're not listening to your emotions. You're not taking the crazy risk that you need to take in order to get there. And once you do this, the rest will kind of resolve itself. Okay. And I want to note too, I think that this is where a lot of people are sticking points. A lot of sticking points that I think is what might be keeping some of you that are saying you're struggling with the energy, from feeling the optimism and from fully going with it is that fact, is the leap of faith and the risk. Okay. How do I want to explain this? The leap of faith, the risk. I think I'm just going to say it. I think a lot of you know exactly what you need to do to change your life for the better and to be happier. But I think a lot of you, especially the ones that are stuck, this section is like for those of you who are still stuck, who have been commenting on my videos. I think a lot of you who are still stuck know exactly what you need to do to change your life for the better. That would fix everything and make you so much happier. But I think you're not doing it. And I think you're not doing it because you're afraid to take the risk. You're afraid to take the leap of faith and maybe to extend that further because it doesn't make logical sense, because it's not practical. Okay. Maybe because it's not realistic. Maybe as well because I'm going to use Capricorn words now, right? And we're trying to get out of that where Pluto, the South Node, and Saturn were in 2020 because it's not traditional. It's not a traditional thing because it's not respectable. It's not respectable because it's not serious, because it's not the way things have always been done. I think that that's what's happening. A lot of you know what needs to be done, but you're not doing it because of all these other things in the way. And you're I think a lot of you are justifying it to yourself. Well, I can't do this thing I want to do because it doesn't make logical sense and it's not practical and it's not realistic. And you're getting complacent and comfortable in that reason when that thing that you think doesn't make logical or practical sense or isn't traditional or serious or responsible, it's that thing that is going to fix it for you. That's going to get you to where you need to go. So I think that's a big message for some of you. You know what needs to be done, but you're not doing it because you think you can't, because it doesn't make logical or practical sense. It's not responsible or realistic or what have you. That's in the way. And there's a need to really examine that. And maybe that's another thing about Pisces I haven't mentioned yet in this video. Pisces is a water sign. The water signs can have to do with our subconscious beliefs and behaviors and thoughts. There's a real need to examine that. What subconscious patterns do you have, or thoughts or beliefs that you aren't even aware that you have, that are stopping you from doing the thing that you really want to do, and from rooting those out? Pisces can also too be about self-sabotage, and not because the risk is the self-sabotage. The risk is the solution. It's the holding yourself back from the risk. That's the self-sabotage. A lot of you are sabotaging yourself because you're not doing the thing that your emotions and your passions is telling you to do. That is going on, that I think really needs to be examined and really needs to be looked at. Now, if I can be honest, I think a lot of this was actually meant to be looked at earlier in the year when Venus was retrograde in Pisces. What was that, around February, March, but could still be lingering here. Okay. Why? So let me give you some examples, right, on what that would be. And then I want to go on another thought. Let me write it down on what was the thought? I don't want to forget this one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Why? Okay. I got it. What are some examples of what this could be like? Okay. Some of this could be moving, right? There's someone that I spoke to in the comments who did ask me a specific question about the home. So this is top of mind. Some of you could not like your home situation, could not like where you're living. Okay. You could want to move, right? Your emotions, your passion, maybe your instincts tell you, I do not like where I live. I want to move, right? I think you need to move. I think you need to move. You need to decide to take a crazy leap of faith to do it, but your logical mind may be talking you out of it. Well, moving is kind of expensive. I don't know if I have the money. It's kind of a lot of work to do. I don't know. I'm going to have to take a lot of days off work. Is that practical? Is that responsible? Then I'm not going to be able to do the work that I need to do. You're talking yourself out of it, or like, I don't know. I've been here. It's tradition. I've been here for so many years, or I've been doing this, or I'm going to upset someone, right? You're just worried about all these things that's going on. So that's stopping you from doing the one thing that's going to fix your situation. So one example is like, some of you need to move, but you're afraid to move or not moving because you don't think it makes logical sense, and you need to take the risk to do it, okay, instead of holding yourself back. Another thought when it comes to that same example is like, when it comes to where do I move to after this point, you move to the place you're passionate about, which I think is a new place. So this isn't like, I'm going to move back to the old place that I'm also not excited about, because moving back to this old place is the responsible thing to do because my parents are there, or my family's there, or they want me close, or this, and that. The next place you're going to move your home to is not going to be back to an old place or to a boring place that you're not excited about. The place you're going to move to after that is going to be a crazy place that lights you up, that puts you on fire, that you're passionate about, that you can't wait to be at, that makes you wake up and feel excited to just live in the day. That's what's going on here. Maybe this is a thing with a relationship. To give you another example, maybe there are some of you who are in a relationship, and maybe there is your emotions that are starting to tell you, and your intuition, that you want to end this relationship that just doesn't align with you, and that you'd feel so much better if you just weren't in this relationship, more passionate, more active, more happy, more free, that life would be easier. But then maybe there's another part of you that's saying, well, it does not make logical sense. It doesn't make logical sense for me to leave this relationship because we live together and our finances are shared. Or it's not the responsible thing to do because this person I'm in a relationship depends on me for some things to be with them. Or it's not the traditional thing to do because then I'll be single and I'm how old? It could be a lot of that's stopping you from doing the one thing that you need to be doing to really move forward. Okay. So that could be a situation. You need to end a relationship, but you're not, because you feel like it's not logical or practical. So you're staying stuck in it instead of doing what needs to be done. And what you do after, maybe to give you another thought, and what you do after you end the relationship is not sit around boring. You pursue what you're excited about. Maybe once you break up, now you can pursue a hobby. Now you can go hiking a lot. Now you can start sewing. Now you can start learning another language, like whatever it is. Now you can just do what you want when you wake up in the morning. It's doing other things after that are more fun. This can also be the converse of getting into a relationship, although it feels a little more like coming out of one. But could also be the converse. Maybe there's been a relationship that you've been wanting to get into for a while with someone that you're interested in, but maybe you haven't been doing it because you're like, oh, it doesn't make logical sense. We're just too different. They would never like me. We're just never in the same town at the same time, right? Could be something like that, talking yourself out of it. Well, that's going to keep you stuck. You need to take a leap of faith and ask that person out, or try to do something crazy and say, let's make it work. I know our schedules are not aligned. Let's do something crazy. Let's move to a third place. Let's travel together. Let's do something wild, to see if we can make it work. Okay. So that's another situation here. Maybe this could be a job situation. Maybe some of you have been wanting to start your own business for a very, very long time, and that's what would excite you and what's in your heart. But maybe some of you are talking yourself out of it and being like, oh, well, it doesn't make logical sense for me to start my own business because I don't know if it's going to make money, and it may not make enough money, and the job that I currently have is good, and I don't know if it's traditional because I'm the breadwinner for the family. And then what's the family going to do? You may be talking yourself out of it. And the point of this lunar eclipse is that you need to do the business if that's what's in your heart, and you need to let go of the other job and take the leap of faith and just trust that it'll work. Okay. This could be another situation. Maybe it's with a regular job. Maybe you have a regular job where you don't own your own business. You work for someone else. But maybe there's a part of you that realizes there's something about this job that's off. You don't want the job. You actually want another job. You want another job at another company, or you want another job in another field. But maybe you're talking yourself out of doing that. Oh, this other company would never hire me. Oh, I can never work in this other field. I don't have the experience. Why would they hire me? Why would they make this work? It could be something like that's going on. Oh, this new field isn't going to pay enough, stopping you from doing the one thing that's actually going to fix your job. And it's like, you have to take the leap of faith. You have to take the leap of faith to change your job, to do the crazy thing, even if it doesn't make logical sense, You have to do that, and you have to follow your heart. It's about following what lights you up in order to do a lot of that. Okay. Some of this too could be, let's see, I try to hit all the major points of people's lives, like relationships, home, okay, job, work. What about health, right? Maybe it's a health thing. Maybe some of you have had health issues for a while. Okay, well, maybe recently you've started to feel instinctually, right, in your body that you need a different type of treatment, or that something else will help your body, to help whatever it is, right? Maybe it's lose weight, maybe it's cure an illness, right? Maybe there's something that your body is telling you that you feel strong, like within your body, feel strongly about, or like will help you, or very instinctual about, that will fix it. Maybe it's a different diet. Maybe it's a different routine. That's a bit strange, something like that. But there could be a part of you that at this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, that's holding yourself back, that's saying, oh, well, I can't do this diet because that's weird. And then how am I going to eat dinner with my family if they don't eat this and I eat that, or I want to do this thing with my health, but it's not traditional. It's not with the traditional doctors. The traditional doctors say I need to be taking all these prescription medications, and I don't want to deal with all this, right? So you could be talking yourself out of it. And there's a need for you to stop talking yourself out of these things and doing the traditional stuff, and take the leap of faith to do something with your health that you feel physically, viscerally in your body is going to make it feel better, and to trust that, to trust those things and your inner wisdom of your body instead of the tradition and other things that are going on, okay? Because that's going to help you to move forward. So do you see? And the more I think those are all the examples I'm going to give you, but do you see, the more that you resist doing the crazy thing that doesn't make logical sense, the more you're going to stay stuck, and the more that you're going to get left behind, okay? But the more you actually do the crazy thing and you actually take the risk, the more your progress is going to accelerate, and going to get better and faster, and going to move forward into a different experience, right? And maybe that's also a thought too, because I know every once in a while in my videos, speed has been a thing. Are things moving fast or slow? How do they feel? And of course, speed is an illusion, but I think too, the more you take a crazy leap of faith, the more things are going to speed up. The more you're going to feel, it's still going to take till March, but you're going to feel like time is going faster. So I think there's also a thought there of like, the more you take the risk, not only are you going to get unstuck, but it's going to make you feel like you're making progress better and faster as well. To keep that in mind. Okay. Anything else that I want to note? Now I'm also sensing that from these examples, some of you are probably especially sticking points on the money part and are probably like, but what about the money? What about the money? Sure, moving all of that, or if I were to just trust that the money is going to be there, like how is that going to work? And I think if that's you, because I'm feeling like that's a specific concern, that comes around to the leap of faith. It's not a leap of faith if you knew for sure you were going to be fine. It's not a leap of faith if you knew 100% that it was going to work and that you were going to be okay and that the money was going to be there, right? The nature of a leap of faith is that you don't know and you have to try, or maybe you have to put some things on credit, for a little bit. So I think that's the thought there. A lot of you are using money as an excuse to not do something that you want to do instead of just trusting that the money will be there. If not magically, like surprisingly, unexpectedly, the more you take the leap, but then later on, next year and onwards. So I'm worried. I'm going to get a lot of you talking about money. Money is an excuse. I'm just going to say it. If money is your problem, then it's because you're not doing what needs to be done here. And you got to do some inner work surrounding that. You have to take the leap and the net will appear. Take the leap and the money will appear. And this could indicate that suddenly and unexpectedly you'll get the money that you need if you take the leap to release the old one, or that if you put things on credit for a while, you'll pay it back. You'll pay it back soon. Soon, next year looks great. So, keep that in mind. And I think too, that's another thought. Pisces is also a sign of miracles. I didn't mention it, but it also has to do with spiritual, the divine realm, magic, and miracles. To me, is a Pisces thing as well. And that can also indicate there's a lot of opportunities for miracles over the course of the next 6 months as well. So take a leap of faith, and the questions and the worries you have, I think, are magically going to work themselves out naturally over the course of the next few months. But you have to take the leap of faith first and trust that it will, or else you're never really going to know. Okay? You have to trust. Take the leap and the net will appear. And I feel like the net will be there. It will be there because we're going into a better time of life. We're not going into a worse when we have been through the worst. We are coming out of the worst. We're going into a better time. Take the leap and the net will appear. If not in the next 6 months, then in the next year. Something good is going to come through, and you have to act as such, and not let your logical mind or any of these other concerns stop you here, okay? The other thing that I want to note is why, circle back now to my other thought that I had, why is the leap of faith so necessary? Why is it so necessary now of like, we're going to stay stuck forever if we don't take this leap of faith? Why is that necessary? Well, for those of you who've been watching my horoscope for quite some time, I have mentioned this in previous horoscopes. Okay. I have mentioned this in previous horoscopes that in January to April of 2020, when we had Saturn, Pluto, the South Node, Jupiter conjunct in Capricorn, which indicated a hard time of life that we were trying to escape, right? I've said before, what was it about that time? What was it about our old life that we did not like, that made it so that we needed to escape it? Well, what made that hard is that we were like too Capricorn, because Pluto can bring something too much in that direction. Capricorn is too responsible, right? If Pluto's there, too responsible, too serious, too structured, and it can do it at the expense of the opposite sign, Cancer, at the expense of our emotions, at the expense of what we're really feeling, at the expense of nurturing ourselves and caring for ourselves and who we are. Okay, so think about that for a second. The old life that we did not like or that we had outgrown was a life in which everything we did was to be traditional. So it was to be respectable so that we can get the respect of other people, so that other people can see us and can think we're great. Was so that we could be more serious. Was so that we could be responsible and do the thing we thought we should do to be good people, good little people and good little minions. That was the old life, and that created a whole bunch of things that we did not like. So the way to get out of that experience is not to do more of that. The way to get out of that experience of life where we didn't like any of it because we just did what we were told and what we thought was good to move up the ladder, the way to get out of that experience is not to do more traditional things just because we were told to do it that are responsible and respectable and traditional and serious. No, the way to get out of that is to do more of the opposite, to follow our passion for a change, to follow our heart for a change, to follow our emotion for a change, to do the crazy thing for a change, to do our emotion for a change. Okay, so the reason why this is needed is because we were not doing this at all. We were not doing this at all in 2020. And for many years prior to that, maybe 35 years prior to that, we weren't acting at all in this way. And that created the problems. So the reason why we need to do this now is to get out of that, is to do the exact opposite to get out of that, right? Because in order to bring things into balance, a lot of times you need to swing to extremes. We were doing too much tradition, seriousness, responsibility, practicality for a long time, could have been 30 years. Well, now we need to swing in the opposite direction in a very significant way. This is an eclipse in a very significant way to balance them out. Because you know how a pendulum, it'll swing here and back big, and then eventually it'll slow down and meet in the middle. So we have to go in the other direction to balance out everything that we've done in the past. And we can't just do it a little bit. We have to do it a lot. It has to be proportionate. Do you see? If we've been too much in one direction, serious, responsible, traditional, for 30 years, we can't just do a little bit for a year in this different experience of simple, easy, passionate. We need to go all in. We need to do it big. We need to do it for a lot more longer until we meet in the center. So this is why we need to do these behaviors in this way. We need to do a lot of it because it's been sorely and severely missing in our lives. And now we need to bring it back into balance. Maybe that's also why Mars is in Libra right now. We need to bring it, and we're going to have, new moon in Libra soon, I believe. Although the next one's in Virgo, but maybe after that one, right? We're going to go through Libra season. Either way, the sun's going to be there. So we got to bring things back into balance. So I think that's my main thought here is like we got to bring things back into balance. And the way to do it is to go all the way in this different direction. And because too, if you want to get into a new experience, you have to behave in different ways. And these are the behaviors that are going to do it. All right. Well, I do have to get going. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to look at your inside degrees really quickly. I've got something I need to get onto. So I'm going to pull that up on the screen and talk through those, and then I'll pull your card. This lunar eclipse is at 15 degrees Pisces. So I've got the inside degrees up on the screen. They're not written by me. They're written by someone else named Elias Lonsdale. But he channeled each of the meanings of the degrees from Spirit. And I think that they can be interesting and relevant. So we're going to look at those really quickly. Again, the eclipse is at 15 degrees, but the ones before, of, and after can all be relevant. So let's take a look here. We've got 14 degrees. Let's look at that one. It says, something has ended. It is a memory, and what happened cannot be reconstructed. Something else shall follow, but it will be in a very different vein. What does that indicate to me? We're ending the past 35 years of our life that we tried to in 2020. We're finally doing it over the course of the next 6 months. It's going to be over. It's just going to be a memory. It cannot be reconstructed after March of next year when this energy dies down. It says, irrationally, persistently, the traces remain, and there is regret, there is loss, there is grief. The magnitude of destiny overshadows cycles lived in its afterglow. The power is elsewhere. Vital forces have been spent, and in the melancholy mood of looking back, so much is missed, passed over, not deemed important, yet truly it is what you learn afterwards that counts, and is the inward reverberations that mean everything to the secret soul. So this does indicate that there is some sadness and loss over what we're leaving behind that I did not mention in this video, but can also be a Pisces thing. Sometimes Pisces can bring on some sad emotions. So it can also bring some of that also over the course of the next 6 months will need to be worked through as well. Although I'm getting more of an excitable energy. I personally feel more of an excitable energy than this is giving, but this doesn't know that, right? We've got some stuff in Aries going on, but it can indicate some sadness about things you're leaving behind that may also need to be healed over the course of the next few months. Not only that, but I also like too that it brings up about learning, because I also didn't mention this as well, but Pisces is about learning and understanding and wisdom too, also being correlated to Jupiter as well, in addition to Sagittarius. So that's another thing, is that some of you may think, oh, the past few years were wasted. What was the past 35 years of my life about? Or what was 2025 to 2020 all about? And it's like they weren't wasted. You were learning, and that's just my opinion. That's what life is all about. Life is all about learning, because if this is our first life, or if we don't remember our past lives, how can we possibly prepare for it? How can we possibly do life perfectly? There is no way to do life perfectly. We're here we're here to learn. We're here to learn and just try and just see what works. And as long as you're learning, nothing was wasted. That's my opinion. I think that's a Pisces thing in a lot of ways. So the past wasn't wasted. It was an opportunity for learning. And if you feel like it was wasted, maybe you haven't extracted the nuggets of wisdom from it yet. And you need to spend the next few months also trying to process, heal, and get the wisdom about what you learned from that experience. Okay, now let's move on to 15. At Pisces 15, it says, the inner kingdom seeks to come out. Everything is ripe and ready for emergence. There have been gathered many soul gifts in divergent worlds, and now there is harvest time. An immense earth force presses to the surface to release and reveal an underlying feeling tone of righteous triumph, exultant mastery, the gathering of the tribes. Okay, now do you see the difference between the last degree and this one? The last degree is of endings. This one is about beginnings. And you know what? This one is the actual degree that the full moon lunar eclipse is at. Everything is ripe and ready. And that's how I feel. Because I told you, I'm not feeling a super sad vibe. I'm feeling more of an excitable vibe over the course of the next few months. And this is to me what brings it. Okay. And not only that, but this is another confirmation that over the course of the next 6 months, the end is gone. The past is gone. The new is beginning. The past is gone. The new is beginning, and it's coming. So there's that. These degrees give me a good bookend. Past is ending. Over the course of next 6 months, new is beginning. Sure, there may be some sadness and loss from that you may have to understand and make sense of and figure out what you learned from that experience. But I think we're getting more positive, more excitement about what is new. I also think, too, this is ripe and ready. I think we're ready for the new. I think we're actually ready for it than we were before. And I think now is the time. I don't think this is a trial run. I don't think that this is I think we're ready. I think we're ripe and ready. I like that a lot, that it's going to happen. I also like it too. It says a feeling tone of righteous triumph, exultant mastery, and the gathering of the tribes. I think as well. Not only is the new experience of life finally ripe and ready to emerge, but we've mastered it. And we're going to be triumphant with what we're doing over the course of the next 5-6 months till March, that I think is going to be very, very good. Says the frequency of socio-cultural renewal, with everybody here together offering their best. A subtle permeating tone underscores the outward power, with mystic fervor, a deep and strong combination to make a difference and to carry through what is intended. Okay, I'm getting a sense, I think what stands out to me here is the subtle permeating tone underscores the outward power with mystic fervor. I think this is an inner knowing. I think there's a strong inner knowing and inner prompting starting to emerge, an instinct that's natural, that needs to be followed, that you can trust. It's like time to trust our instincts again to lead us in the right direction, because I think they're really going to help there. And I think that's all I'm going to say there. Now, let me go ahead and let me pull your card. Oh, we've got the 6 of Cups here upright. Let's see what we've got at the bottom of the deck. We've got Judgment upright. Oh, I love Judgment being a major arcana at an eclipse. That's always nice when those coincide, being a very big thing of indicating this lunar eclipse in the next 6 months are going to be a big time to grow and to change and to rise up and to start over again and release a lot of karma, a lot of judgment from the past as well. So I do like that. Not only that, but Judgment is interesting. I kind of see that as like a Virgo thing. Not only is that the message of this card, but I think this card is also saying as well of like, stop judging what your heart wants and what your emotions are telling you. Or if you're going to judge your emotions and what your heart is telling you, judge them in a more balanced way and give them more weight, because I don't think they have been before. So thoughts there. Now is the time to change your life for the better. It's ripe and ready. You're a master. You will be triumphant. Stop judging yourself too harshly. Let it happen, because now you can release karma, all of that, and move on. And the 6 of Cups to me is also a card of triumph, of like, it's going to work. It's going to work. You're going to create better circumstances, I think, for yourself here. Not only is this card about that, but I think this card to me also indicates that you can trust your emotions. Your emotions know the way. I think this card to me also indicates help coming, maybe from unlikely sources, since it usually does, and depict 2 people kind of interacting, right? There's 2 unicorns there. So if you take the leap, you may get help, find help unexpectedly from places that you did not imagine, but you have to take the leap first in order to get that, to really help you facilitate some of the things that it is that you want to do and to make some of your dreams a reality. It's also telling me too, that you can trust your emotions, that we're learning to honor those more. And it's also telling me too that once we take this leap of faith, I think we're going to feel that childlike home feeling again. You know, the Six of Cups is usually that home and family card. It's like that childlike feeling again of being safe or being home. So I think that there's also a lot of that that's on the other side of these risks that we might want to take here, and to be on the lookout for that, and that your inner child, like to honor your inner child, or your inner child will be happy after this point. So I think there's some of that. You know, the Six of Cups, sometimes I do also see as like a card of the past as well. So it can also indicate some things from the past that you've been considering, but maybe putting off, now coming back as well in order to be moved forward too. I'm not a big fan of actually going back to it. You know, that's a thought. I'm not a fan of going back to things from the past that were 2020 and that were before 2018. Maybe I'll say that. I'm not a big fan of going back to things from the past that happened prior to 2018, but this can indicate you going back to some ideas that started to come to you in 2018 when Saturn was in Sagittarius about new things, and over the course of the past 6 or 7 years, and taking that forward as well. So it can indicate that. Things from the past few years in particular coming back and you taking those further, or help from some things during that time, can also indicate you healing or making sense of the past. What else about the past? If you do, you know, because you never say never, right? If you do go back to some things from the past, they have to be things that you're excited about. So if you decide to go back to something that happened, 20 years ago, it can't just be something that you're kind of lukewarm about. It has to be something that you lights you up, that you're like so excited about, to bring that forward there too. So I think it can bring that as well. If not a feeling of your inner child, of like home and safety from childhood, then things from the past few years coming back, or something from the past 20, 30, whatever, but only if that one in particular you're super excited about. Okay. There. All right. And I think that's all. I'm going to say. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. I hope that you have a good full moon, lunar eclipse in Pisces, and I'll talk to you 2 weeks from now on that next video.